Well, selective outrage is going to be the big theme in the headlines today on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And we're going to start this theme out in Iran because one of the things that you find so abrasive, especially about the coverage and the criticism of the Iran war, is that so many of these people had an infinite level of tolerance for how much money was being spent on Ukraine. Oh, $200 billion? Wow, let's double that. But all of a sudden, they're penny pinchers when it comes to Iran. I don't know if we can afford this war. Well, this is going to drive our economy into the dirt. My goodness, we already going to blow a hole in the national debt. Well, it's not believable. We know what's really going on. I mean, you know what's really going on. You know what that's about. If they're not consistent when it comes to war, what are they consistent about? And there's your answer. But it shows up over and over. You know, if you're all of a sudden a constitutional purist when it comes to right now in the redistricting or the voter ID or, you know, all these other aspects, but you said nothing about the constitutional concerns during COVID lockdowns when they wouldn't let you go to church or peaceably assemble or express your freedom of religion or freedom of press or freedom of speech. Yeah, we know it's what's really going on. You're not really concerned about the Constitution. It's just something you use on your way to power. Same thing with the data centers. Do you know how many data centers are in America right now? We're not talking about this now. We're going to talk about Iran now, but I'm just saying. 5,400 data centers. Now, if you weren't scared about the first 5,400, but you're scared about 5,401, you should ask yourself why. What changed? Why don't we have stories of calamity and Armageddon and apocalypse from the five? If these things are so bad, there's 5,400. There should be just hell on earth. But if you're claiming the mantle of feminism and women's rights most of the time, but you're actually opposing the protests to the grooming gangs in the UK over the weekend, we know what that's about too. So with that, you know, the summit that Trump just got back from in China really had two big geopolitical issues that are looming over Chinese-American relations. Number one is Iran. Number two is Taiwan. We'll start with Taiwan first. Trump was asked about that.
Should the people of Taiwan feel more or less secure after your meetings with President Xi?
Neutral.
Has the policy changed at all?
No, nothing's changed.
U.S. policy?
No, nothing's changed. I will say this. I'm not looking to have somebody go independent and, you know, we're supposed to travel 9,500 miles to fight a war. I'm not looking for that. I want them to cool down. I want China to cool down.
But you're waiting on approving billions of dollars of weapons for Taiwan.
That's right.
Is that
I'm
moving forward?
It. Well, I haven't approved it yet. We're going to see what happens.
What are you looking for?
I may do it. I may not do it.
Yeah, what's your hinge point?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I may do it. I may not do it. But we're not looking to have wars. And if you kept it the way it is, I think China's going to be okay with that. But we're not looking to have somebody say, let's go independent because the United States is backing us. You know.
So President Xi probably liked that you haven't approved the weapons to Taiwan.
I would say like is maybe too strong a word because he thinks I could do it with just the signing of my signature, unlike Biden who couldn't sign his signature. No, I'm holding that in abeyance, and it depends on China. It depends. It's a very good negotiating chip for us, frankly. It's a lot of weapons. It's $12 billion. It's a lot of weapons. But, you know, when you look at the odds, China's a very, very powerful, big country. That's a very small island. It's, you think of it, it's 59 miles away, 59 miles. We're 9,500 miles away. That's a little bit of a difficult problem. With all of that being said, you know, if you look at the history of Taiwan, Taiwan was developed because we had presidents that didn't know what the hell they were doing. Because if they would have put tariffs on chips coming in, they would have never left. Everything was about Intel, and everything was about our chip companies. They stole our chip industry. So I've said that for years. I said, you know, for years they stole our chip. If we would have had one of our presidents just say, we're going to put 100% chip. You can leave, you can build in Taiwan, but you sell it back into the United States. We're going to put 100% or 200% tariff. We would have never lost a chip. We lost the chip industry. It's all coming back. And I do say this, Taiwan would be very smart to cool it a little bit. China would be very smart to cool it a little bit. They ought to both cool it.
Yeah, as my kids would say, Daddy, chill. The other big topic in the Brett Baer interview yesterday on Fox News. This is a little under 2 minutes. I'm sorry these cuts are too long. I just don't want to take them out of context and clip them because they lose so much meaning. But I know you don't have the attention span of my 10-year-old daughter. You can handle a 2-minute clip. Here's the inflation part.
This inflation number is going up. You're right. It's much lower than President Biden's was, but it's going up under you. The numbers are. You can imagine Democrats and political pundits jumped all over this statement that you made the other day. You were asked when you were leaving.
What extent are American financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about American financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all.
That's right. That's a perfect statement. I'd make it again.
You can imagine how many people stop the soundbite I don't think about America's financial situation. So what's your response to that framework?
It's very simple. When people hear me say it, everybody agrees. Short-term pain. It's going to be short-term pain. But the pain is much less than people thought. Because people thought that the oil would go up to $250. You know, it was $99 yesterday, $99 a barrel. I thought it might go up to $200. I was okay with that. Not that I wanted it, but you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They will use it on us. They'll start off with Israel, wipe it out. The Middle East, wipe it out. It'll go to Europe. You know, they have a missile that goes to Europe. You saw that, okay? They have a missile that goes to Europe. I have done Europe a very big favor. When you tell somebody you're going to have to pay a little more, not that much more, a little more for gasoline for a very short period of time, because we want to stop the threat of being blown to pieces by a lunatic, by a crazy person, and they are crazy, using nuclear weapons. Everybody says that's fine. And that question was a fake question, and they didn't put my full answer. I totally care.
Coming up next on the James Show, you're going to hear Colonel Wes Martin. He's a retired military veteran. He was on with the morning show today talking about the potential of a new Iran strike and the overlap with China and all those issues. And it was so good, I'm just going to replay you the whole 6 minutes coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So what are our options for winning in Iran? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three funny guys on right before the James Show. Check them out weekdays 11 to 2. Retired Colonel Wes Martin was on the WBAP morning show, and he's a regular on the James Show, so I'm sure you're familiar with him unless this is your first show. But it was so damn good, I'm just going to play you the whole 6 minutes right here.
On the Clarity Windows and Doors Newsline, Colonel Wesley Martin joins us. He served as a senior anti-terrorism force protection officer for all coalition forces in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And there's plenty more on that resume, I'm sure. Colonel, thank you so much for your time this morning. We sure do appreciate your being on with us. And a question that we were just discussing here, and a lot of people are asking, how do the Iranians still control the Strait of Hormuz?
When the senior leadership was knocked out, our administration was saying that they've been decapitated, the head of the snake has been cut off. But as I keep pointing out, Middle East mindset, it's not the head of the snake, it's the body of the spider. And as a result, like you have wolf brand spiders in Dallas, you kill the mother spider, all the babies go running off a back and going in many different directions. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're still dealing with the same regime. What did, in fact, happen is we opened up the promotion system within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and with the Iranian government itself.
What happens next? I mean, we keep hearing the president say, hey, on the one hand, it's almost done, it's done, we're nearly done, and oh, well, I might bomb you guys back into the Stone Ages. Where does this thing even stand?
It's not done. It's not done because you don't have victory until you take land. There are 5 battle domains: air, land, sea, and space, and cyberspace. No matter what you do in the other 4, unless the land is taken, it's not done. But we don't want to put U.S. forces on the ground because all those drones are just going to be coming at those forces. And even the Washington Times hit on that this morning, something I've been saying for months now. We'll have the drone. But the solution is within Iran, and this administration needs to reach out and encourage the Iranian people and reach out to the resistance organizations and let them take the real estate.
Colonel Wesley Martin with us on the Clarity Windows and Doors Newsline. Colonel, what is the United States position here? What do they need to do short of putting people on the ground there?
3 things. One thing I do like about President Trump, even though he was not in the military, he does strike like the military. When he said, you've got 7 days before I attack, he'll come in early. So and he's talking right now about Iran needs to come to the table or he's going to attack, and he's going to attack sooner than they expect. And that's going to be to the benefit of the soldiers. The second thing needs to be done, and I know between Mossad and Cyber Command, Iran is getting hit hard in cyberspace. That needs to be even harder. That's one place where we can shut the IRGC and the Iranian government down, because there are only 3 nations at the top of the list on cyber capabilities, and that's the United States, China, and Israel. And 2 of them are in this fight side by side. The third one is to work with the Iranian people, and that hasn't been done yet. They have not reached out and encouraged them, attack. We're with you. And there are resistance organizations standing by, and I work with those organizations, and they're ready to go. They just need this administration to come forward and say, let's do it together.
Do they have in Iran any internet connection whatsoever? Does Starlink work there? Can the people communicate with each other?
What communications are done, mainly, they do have radio, and so the messaging from the outside is getting to the people of Iran. The Ministry of Intelligence and Security for Iran, it has a robust cyber operations, certainly not compared to the other 3 nations I mentioned, but they are able to intercept and shut down. Most of it has been shut down, if not all, and if there's any other way the people are trying to communicate, the Ministry of Intelligence and Security will find it, and they'll go looking for these people. But they do have radio, and there is what we call Radio Free Europe. There is such a program working with the Iranian people, so they're not blind to what's going on.
All right. Colonel Wesley Martin, what do you anticipate the next action will be?
It's already started.
Has it?
Iran has already struck with drones the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Fortunately, in the Emirates, they targeted a nuclear power plant. They did hit the electrical generator, caused a fire. But the good thing is, the Emirates copy the U.S. strategy. We don't have single point of failure. So even though they hit an electrical generator, there's backup. So it's already started. What's going to happen next is Trump's going to hit, and he's going to hit hard, and he's going to hit fast, and with the ones the Iranians don't expect. But they have moved those drones and what missiles they have left around. Then they're going to attack the allies in the region even harder than before.
Has the U.S. and Israel, have they kept an eye on what Iran was doing? Certainly we've had eyes in the sky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that we do. And that's the battle domain of space. The satellites up there and the National Security Agency, they have been following all this. The problem is with those drones, you take the wings off, you can move them most any place, as long as you have a landing strip or even a straight strip of highway, you can launch those things. And they have ranges up to 2,000 miles. And the Arash, a payload of 600 pounds.
Yeah, but that has really changed the game of warfare, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah. Colonel Wesley Martin, as always, thank you so much for coming on. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Hat tip to the WBAP morning show. Listen to those guys from whenever you wake up until Matlock comes on at 9. Coming up next, did you hear about this string of shootings in Austin over the weekend? 12 shootings by 3 guys. Find out if it was white rural rage like you were warned. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. This Austin shooting, mass shooting of mass shootings, should be a wake-up call, but it's not going to be. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the big show. If you haven't heard, this was kind of a big deal on social media over the weekend. I was trying to stay off my phone as much as possible, but this was an event that was spread out from kind of early Saturday afternoon until Sunday morning. So it was a spree that lasted more than 12 hours. I'll let WFAA give you the quick summary as it stands now.
3 suspects are now in custody for as many as 12 random shootings across Austin over the weekend. We know 2 of them are teenagers, and the third was taken into custody last night after dodging police most of Sunday. The shooting started on Saturday. 4 people were hurt. One of those victims has serious injuries. The 2 suspects who were arrested first are just 15 and 17 years old. At least 2 of the shootings happened at Austin fire stations. Others happened at apartment complexes, neighborhoods, and stores. Here's Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis.
I think it touches everybody, and it doesn't matter if it was a car dealership that was struck or it happened to be a fire station or a police station. These are dangerous kids out causing havoc in this city, and they had to be taken into custody, and they were, safely.
We're still waiting to learn the age of the third suspect. Police say there is no clear motive for any of them.
Yeah, no clear motive. So you notice they left off the race there. Why did they do that? You know, they don't leave the race off all the time. Sometimes when they're telling a story, they like to include race. That's so weird. It's almost awkward. The double standard there. Well, I'll let you go ahead and guess. Say it out loud. What do you think? Yeah, we're playing a nice awkward game of racial bingo. No. What's your second guess? Yeah, they're Hispanic. According to the write-up here in the Dallas Morning News, police located 2 of the suspects, both unidentified but described as young Hispanic males. Oh, they left that part out. You didn't mention the... Well, that's awkward, because in other stories, it's the most important thing possible. In other stories, not only do you kind of give it a mention, it's in the damn headline, right?
Images now circulating on social media of a black man dying after being shot by a white police officer.
The Justice Department is investigating the death of Alton Sterling, a black man shot to death by a white police officer outside a convenience store.
In the past 48 hours, 2 more American cities have been convulsed by the fatal shootings of African-American men by white police officers.
Cool. So if it makes you look bad, they'll tell you the race. If you're on the victim end, well, then they will hide the race. How you like that one? Does that make you feel good about yourself? I would like to also bring to your attention here that we have yet another example of rage, a streak of violence that happened in your community where innocent people were on the other end of this violence. Not fellow drug dealers in some kind of smack deal gone bad. Innocent people were killed. You were told to expect white rural rage. So whether it's a Sunday fun day up in Oklahoma where a bunch of teenagers are spraying bullets at each other, whether it's down in Austin where for a day and a half, 3 air quote teenagers are spraying bullets at innocent people, do any of them match white rural rage?
White rural rage. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy?
I mean, we lay out the 4-fold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. Third, they're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalist. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors about this demographic.
Well, let's be fair. White people are not wholly innocent. There have been horrible hate crimes based on race that white people have committed, even in Dallas, even in the last 6 months. Look, there's been a lot of mass shootings. I mentioned the Sunday Fun Day in Oklahoma where like a dozen teenagers got shot. I just mentioned this guy down here. There's been the attacks at the Alvarado and Dallas ICE facilities. There's been all kinds of mass shootings. But you remember back in December on a viral video, there were 3 Stars fans that made what could be perceived as a Nazi salute. Oh my God, look out for these white people. Look out. Got to take them down a peg. Make sure they're banned from the American Airlines Center for life. Aren't you tired of this? Remember Mike Rawlings, former mayor of Dallas, described the inverse of what just happened. He told you in November of 2015, yeah, I have a long memory. I've been from here for a long time. Mike Rawlings, what was he worried about? Dangerous roving bands of violent white guys.
This is a serious issue. I am more fearful of large gatherings of young white men that come into schools, theaters, and shoot people up, but we don't isolate young white men on this issue.
Has that ever happened? Is there roving bands of young white men in your entire life that have done an attack like this? Because, I mean, I doubt it's zero, but you got to think it's definitely not the majority. It's definitely kind of rare. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Also, you were warned about this from Jasmine Crockett. She had a similar prediction that turned out to be not quite wholly accurate.
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
He said that we've got these cities and these towns that are being overrun by gangs and the crime out of control. I absolutely agree with that. And guess what? It's the MAGA gang. It is the white supremacists that have decided to descend upon places such as Springfield, Ohio. So I agree with him. I just disagree with who the problems are. The problems are him and his minions. The problems aren't the people that have come to make our economy stronger, the people that have actually been able to help to continue to make sure that we got out of the big hole that he put us in after COVID-19 with his ineptness. Like, yeah, I agree that there are problems in our communities, but usually it's some white supremacists on the other side.
In your entire life, has a white supremacist stolen a gun from a store, gone back later, stolen another gun from the same store, given it to a 15-year-old, and then went on 12 different location shooting sprees. 12 different shootings in 2 days. No, y'all crack down on white supremacists when you think they might be a white supremacist because they did a salute that could be interpreted as a Nazi salute. You know, I'm rewatching Rome, the HBO series with my kids. They keep doing that over and over, the old Roman salute. It's like, how are they Nazis before Nazis were invented? They're Nazis like 1,900 years before we even knew what Nazis were. How is that a thing? So, yeah, we don't have all the locations of all the 12 incidences, but we do have all 3 teenagers in custody, and they're all reported to be Hispanic, and it's going to be dropped here because, you know, the gun control crowd would be like, we got to do something about guns. How does a 15-year-old get their hand on a gun? Well, a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and another one that I'm not even sure of his age. They all got their hands on the guns. They stole them. So all the gun laws in Austin didn't protect the residents of Austin from the, I'm sorry, not white rural rage. I'm not allowed to say who they are, right? Because that would be racist. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More details on this, including find out how many vehicles they stole. Because it sounds like a game of Grand Theft Auto. That's coming up on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, you're about to get an update on the high school in Texas that loves handing out jobs. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. It's Wiley East High School. They're back in the news again. This time they're not handing out Qurans. They're scared that somebody within close proximity of this campus, not actually even on the campus, might be handing out a Bible. No, God. No, not a Bible. No, God. All right, to give me an assist with this, Kaylee Campbell's coming back on the James Show. Kaylee, I'm bringing you on because I saw this from you first. I have to give you credit. You were the one that shared out on social media the letter warning parents in Wiley ISD of the scary prospect of someone handing out Bibles near one of their campuses. Now, you jumped on it. I jumped on it. I think half of North Texas thought, "Oh, wow! Did the parents get a warning letter when they were handing out Qurans?" Kaylee. Well, I'm not even having to go into the content of the book being passed out to point out an unacceptable double standard. Well, it's even worse than that, considering the fact that this guy, it's just a local activist who's going to be handing out Bibles. He's not going to be allowed on campus. He's not going to be allowed in the building. He's not even going to be allowed in the fence line. He may be on some public easement controlled sidewalk next to one of the campuses. And that got a warning, Kaylee. All right, we're talking with Kaylee Campbell, local independent journalist of sorts, dealing with the Wiley East High School continuing saga that started back in, I guess it was the first week of February when they had the hijab day and they were passing out Qurans and hijabs. And then Marco did the viral video that a bunch of us caught on to. Did you see Marco went to Congress last week? So, one of the complaints that I get exhausted of is just the public school issue, whether it's this or what's in the library, or as Marco was pointing out, at some campuses in Wiley ISD, the library has a Quran but not a Bible. I think all this just boils down to public school. Do you think the general public is ready for the idea of just getting rid of public schools? Yeah, homeschooling's looking better and better every day. What's the situation with don't you have a kiddo in school? Yeah, right. I'll crank out the organ. Well, listen, this is probably the main reason why myself and Miss Parker do not move into Dallas proper, because I would much prefer to have my entire family really close to where I work, but I have 4 kids. I can't afford 4 tuitions, and I sure as hell can't put them in Dallas ISD. And homeschooling's probably our next best option. But, you know, the other dangerous part of this is, I feel like I'm safe out in Bug Tussle. I bet you a lot of these parents felt like they were safe because they're out in Wiley, and it's Wiley East, and it's not really the big evil city. But I guess you're not even safe in the suburbs anymore. Yeah, well, it's also annoying how we're getting lectured by the same people who are freaking out about the 10 Commandments in classroom, and they have no problem handing out hijabs to your kiddos at lunch. All right, Kaylee, how do we find your work online? You got any good stories coming up? Aren't aren't you one of my friends that's all about this Frisco mayor election? Who's your guy? Yeah, Bill Howard, that's his name. Sorry, I don't live in Frisco, so I'm not paying that much attention to it. But I see a lot of my friends posting about it a lot, and it seems kind of a big deal. So, Frisco people, you might want to go look up Kaylee Campbell. She's got a lot of good info on the race that's happening now. Isn't this part of the early voting? Didn't that start today? So, oh, I'm so glad you knew all that. All right, well, there you go. Kaylee Campbell on the James Show. All right, y'all. Journey, the Final Frontier, is coming to the American Airlines Center November 20th. Get tickets and information at Ticketmaster.com, or you can listen to the WBAP Morning Show all of this week for your chance to win a pair of tickets. I don't know, probably be like, what year is it or something? Is that when they're doing it, Garrett? Or do you even know? All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, the giant Restore Britain rally, Restore UK rally that happened over the weekend. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. It looks like we may have 2 people dead. Active shooting at the San Diego Islamic Center. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm just kind of piecing this together on the break. It started popping up on my screen as the James Show was starting an hour ago, and now that I have a little information, I'll be happy to pass some of this along. But right now, it's called an active but contained shooting situation at the Islamic Center of San Diego. Quick little research on this Islamic Center. It's quite controversial. It hosted 9/11 hijackers, obviously before 9/11. And then it's had speakers that were praising, oh God, there's the aerial shot, that were praising the October 7th attack in Gaza, or from Gaza, the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 3 years ago. But it's horrible because someone's showing what I can't tell if it's a helicopter or a drone, but it's an aerial shot. And one of the bodies is laying in it's not really a pool of blood as much as it is a blood splatter. It's nasty. And then there's another person that looks like they're down. I can't tell if they're dead, but if they're leaving some guy on the ground and there's a whole bunch of blood everywhere, that's not looking too good. Now, he's not still on the ground. This is footage that was taken about an hour ago. And so they're just looping that. It looks like they're getting everyone out of the center right now. On the live shot that they're showing on Fox News, they're escorting people out of the Islamic Center. Kind of scary for the parents. There's a school there that is pre-K to 3rd grade at the Islamic Center of San Diego. We already have a bunch of people on X saying this is a terrible hate crime against the poor Muslim community. Stop it. We don't even know who did it or why they did it. So let's just chill. We don't even know if it's a hate crime. But also, I don't know if I've ever seen the terminology active but contained. Well, is it active or is it contained? Because it seems like those two things can't coexist. There is a giant phalanx of police vehicles of various types. I don't know, when was it, like 2015? All cops started driving SUVs. So I see what looks like about 50 SUVs, San Diego, and there looks like to be a mix of some county deputies in there too. And then a small smattering of motorcycle cops and a SWAT vehicle in there as well. So they've got this place completely surrounded by the cops. So I don't know. They haven't told us what's going on with the shooter. Is he down? So active but contained, whatever that means. I'll try and figure out more and get you that info as soon as I can. But police aren't confirming the deaths. I'm just telling you, it looks like for sure one person is dead and maybe 2, because in the videos that they're looping on X and on Fox News right now, well, they got it on MSNBC too. That footage is from an hour ago, and I think they have the bodies up now, because I think I saw that exact scene just a few minutes ago on the last break, and it was already like the body had been moved. So it looks like a tragedy is unfolding before our eyes. I wish I had any info on the shooter. I have one guy saying that there's 2 suspected shooters that were found dead off the property. He's saying he heard that off of emergency radio traffic. I can't give that much credence because it's just some dude who calls himself Citizen on X saying he heard it on the police scanner. No media outlet is confirming that, but that's what I've got. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the Restore UK protest that happened over the weekend. Kind of a weird thing to put next to a threat at an Islamic center. Oh, okay, now we have the police. Police have just confirmed that the threat at the Islamic Center has been neutralized. So look at that. Random citizen on X turned out to be correct. Score 1 for him. And that's why I read these things. All right, more details on the active shooting. It looks like it's wrapping up, and then we'll talk about we don't usually talk about protests that happen in the UK, but this one I think is going to be worth your time. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. It's no longer an active shooting situation at the San Diego Islamic Center. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three funny guys here are probably going to talk about this tomorrow. So let me just update the caption here. It's now not an active shooting at the San Diego Islamic Center. Now it's just a shooting. And it looks like two dead because we're now having confirmation. San Diego Police Department put on Facebook that the shooter has been neutralized. I don't know. I saw one body on the front sidewalk right in front of the what I assume is the main entrance to the Islamic Center. Now, it's not like one big building. It's on a triangle lot, and the front entrance is in like one of the skinny angles there. And it kind of expands back from the front door and gets wider as you go back into the facility, and then it breaks up into other buildings. So it looks like the big main building that was at the front of the little toe of the triangle there is where I saw a guy from an aerial shot laid in a very uncomfortable position and an incredible amount of blood under him. So I don't know if that's the shooter. I don't know if that's the victim of the shooter. But that's the updates I have going on. It's a strange story because we don't have a whole lot of these. I'm not saying there's never been an attack on a mosque, but that's rare. We see more of the attacks going the other way. You know, angry Muslim attacking non-Muslims than non-Muslims attacking Muslims. But, you know, and on a long enough time scale, every exception to the rule will show itself. More information on that as it becomes available over the weekend. It was a big event that they didn't want you to hear. Restore UK is a political movement that is seeking to uprise and reverse what they see as the decline of their culture. And in the UK, the numbers are quite misleading. I think about 5% of the population is Muslim, but they're highly concentrated in a handful of urban areas. And with the birth rate declining among the native population, and not explosive, but definitely on the upswing in the immigrant population, they're really only 2 or 3 decades away from losing their country. And I mean losing their country for good. You can't show me where this demographic switcheroo has happened and things worked out great for the native population. And that's the concern. The leader of this movement is Tommy Robinson. He's one of the leaders, but he's probably the most high-profile guy. Tommy Robinson is a guy, he was here a couple months ago on the first round of elections. I saw him at the Ken Paxton election night viewing party when they did the first round. He was at CPAC in Grapevine. He was one of the speakers at a couple of forums there. So he's quite familiar with the Texas situation, but he's well known because he went to jail for criticizing the grooming gangs and the authorities that were covering up the grooming gangs. Are you familiar with the grooming gang issue that they're having in the UK, or they've been having? They import millions and millions of people from former British colonies primarily, and one of them is Pakistan. And it turns out that evidence kept coming up over and over and over that there are different grooming gangs that have gone out and just serial raped and trafficked young British girls for years. And when they get caught, they sweep it under the rug because they don't want the bad headlines. So to kind of set this up, Liz Truss, she's a commenter on such things, was kind of spelling out before the protest happened what this was really all about.
X has revolutionized Britain and brought news that the press were trying to suppress. So the grooming gangs is the biggest example. It's absolutely horrific what's happened. Tens of thousands of British girls, age 11 and upwards, groomed, raped, tortured by Pakistani Muslim gangs. And the mainstream media in Britain has largely tried to cover it up. And even when they reported it, they only reported it for one day, and then they talked about, something else, probably Prince Harry or whatever. And Elon Musk and X have made these issues much more widely known about and are creating a different tone in politics, which I think is fantastic. And of course, Keir Starmer's busy trying to ban X. He is.
Do you think that's just because they're so used to controlling the legacy media and they're not able to control this new function?
Of course. Absolutely. It's a threat. It's the biggest threat to their power and rule is free speech, which is why they're going after it in such a tough way.
So Tommy Robinson was the headliner at the Restore UK March this weekend. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of native Britons showed up and filled the streets. And Tommy Robinson is a folk hero in the fact that after the grooming games were discovered, he spoke out against it. He caught charges. You know, they don't have freedom of speech over there. He organized protests. He was told he was not allowed to protest. He protested anyway. They put him in jail for speaking out against the grooming gangs of Muslim immigrants. Why? Because he was fostering hate toward a disenfranchised, delicate minority. So Nick Shirley went over there. Nick Shirley, that Nick Shirley from the Leering Center, from the Somali daycare up in Minnesota. And he did, he went to the rally, made a video that he put out yesterday. I'm going to play you the intro for that. But one of the nasty little secrets here is Nick Shirley got to go because he's not a journalist. Keir Starmer, the prime minister for the UK, it's reported that he was denying visas for journalists who wanted to cover the Restore rally because he didn't want it to get any attention. Here's Nick Shirley.
They've imported hostile, violent men into our communities.
Well, this is the intro to his video he put out yesterday. He's talking to Tommy Robinson here.
They've imported hostile, violent men into our communities, and then they've tried to smear us as racist or extremists for wanting protection of our women.
This is the revolt. This is the peasants revolting. He needs to stop branding hard-working Brits as for far right. We just want to be heard, and he's ignoring us.
At the end of the day, do you think a civil war is inevitable here?
Yeah, it's been going on for years. I don't recognise my country no more. Keir Starmer is like an actual traitor.
Today we're here in the streets of London. We have the Big Ben right behind us here today, and today it's set to be one of the biggest marches in the history of the United Kingdom. Hundreds of thousands of people are set to come in from all across the United Kingdom to come into the streets of London today. Right now, over 4,000 police officers have been deployed into London, and they're using new facial recognition cameras to track who comes in and out of the protest. That is something that has never happened before, and at all of the major stations like King's Cross, they have new cameras that have facial recognition, and they're tracking quite literally everyone that comes into this protest. And they have even banned journalists from entering into the United Kingdom to cover this event. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has been outspoken against those that are attending this march, saying that this march is led by convicted thugs and people that are spreading division and hate here inside the United Kingdom. He called it racist, actually.
Tomorrow's march in London is a reminder of what we're up against in the battle of our values. The organisers, including convicted thugs and racists, are peddling hatred and division. Plain and simple.
Coming up next, you're going to hear a clip from Tommy Robinson and his keynote speech at the Restore UK protest over the weekend. To kind of tie this all up, this isn't a UK thing. We're going through this here. And if you want to pay attention to what's going on in Frisco, you might want to recognize that that could be your future in about 10 to 20 years. What they're going through right now in the UK, that's what we're going to see in Frisco in about a decade or so. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I got breaking information on the shooting that happened at the San Diego Islamic Center. I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. MSNBC is reporting that a imam from that Islamic Center is reporting 3 dead, including a security guard. So if you put the pieces of information we have together, the San Diego Police Department put on Facebook that the shooter was dead, had been neutralized. So the Islamic Center said one of their security guards is dead. So that leaves one more. There's, I guess, whoever was the target of the shooting, maybe. But we're one step closer to actually understanding what happened. And it's going to be a big story if it's a hate crime. It's going to be worth talking about in the broader context of all these other hate crimes and what's been going on with the Islamic world not getting along with everybody else. But we were talking about, speaking of, the Restore UK protest that happened over the weekend. Tommy Robinson is a British patriot who has already done jail time for speaking out against the egregious behavior of the immigrant population of the UK. And he would like to turn that around. Let me give you a quick clip from his keynote speech, if you want to call it, because he focuses not just on the UK, and rightfully so. This isn't a problem that's happening in the UK. This is happening in London. It's also happening in Frisco. It's also happening in Belgium. It's also happening in Germany. It's also happening in Stockholm, Sweden, a lot of other places who are making the same mistake. They're letting in a whole bunch of third worlders with values, religions, mores, and traditions that do not match Western civilization, and they are not assimilating, and the local native population is suffering as a result. But one of the worst places this is happening, Nigeria.
Do you know, too many times we've had a lot of Christian speakers here. We're a Christian nation. Why do we keep seeing demonstrations for Palestine in our nation? There's one today. When Christians are being butchered and massacred across every Middle Eastern nation, one nation more than ever, there's a genocide happening right now. It's been happening for years in Nigeria. We will not remain silent while our Christian brothers and sisters are being raped and pillaged in any country in the world. So that's why now the BBC, the media, the Church of England and the bloody Pope, why are you not speaking up for the Christians of Nigeria?
You know what? Solid point there. The Pope seems to be more concerned about the Muslims being mobbed in Iran versus the Christians that are being attacked in Nigeria. But no, I love that tack. This isn't about the UK. This isn't about Frisco. This isn't about America. This isn't about the water park in Grand Prairie. This is about Western civilization. And are we going to stand for it and fight for it and allow it to dominate our society? Or are we going to hand it over to a different ideology that is antithetical to the values you grew up with? Joe in Grapevine, you're on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, honor and privilege.
Hey, Joe.
James, you know, when you were talking about attending the Paxton watch party when he was running against Cornyn, and now it's gone to the primaries, you saw Tommy Robinson there. I mean, I remember you mentioning it.
I did.
Tommy Robinson was in town, and I think the reason he was attending Paxton because Paxton has been focusing on this issue that you're talking about right now. He also interviewed different people and went to different areas of the Metroplex, as far as one lady either in Plano or Frisco or whatever. And he did different programs. And anybody wants to watch it, you know, watch it after the James Show. Watch it tonight when you're sitting around with cold beverage, okay? But he did several videos, and he talked about this, about what was going on more extensively, researching and going on spot to the mosque and just the restaurants and just how expansive it was becoming and how people were moving away from this. And I'm thinking, why are y'all moving away? Stand up against it. Don't run from it, because that's just going to make it worse. Something else I'm seeing, I am a member of Sam's and I'm a member of Costco. When the things about was it Minnesota of Somalia had come out, I made an alarm to friends, to everybody, 2.5 years ago, and this is relevant. Everything I'm going to say. When the indictments started coming out, prosecutions went down. They were prosecuting people, sending them to jail. I noticed that a lot of these Somalians, I can think of 4 to 5 different Costco's I went, because I'm a consumer. I do my shopping. I went there for certain items, but I also went there to see what the level was. If you have not been to Costco or Sam's, any of you out there, and anybody else knows, you're going to know what I'm talking about. Well, I would say 2.5 years. I noticed this in 23 and 24. It started hitting really hard, and was toward the end of the Biden administration.
No, okay, Joe. All right. Anybody can go look that up. You're absolutely right. I've seen it floating across my social media feed for the last 2 years since I talked about it on the show. People are feeding me tons of that stuff. Real quick though, Joe, what's it called when native white people move into a neighborhood that previously wasn't white, supplant the previous population? What's that called?
Well, wouldn't they call it white supremacy or something?
No, they call it gentrification. There's a negative word. However, if they leave that neighborhood and they move out to the suburbs or the exurbs or somewhere rural, and then the white population flees, leaving that a minority neighborhood, that's called white flight. What is the word for it when someone supplants you, Joe? When someone comes into your white neighborhood from a different culture, different race, different background, different religion, they come in mass numbers, don't assimilate, and they kick you out of your previously white neighborhood. What's the word for that?
You tell me.
Yeah, there's not one. Actually, there's not. That's the Orwellian thing about it. We don't even have the language to describe if you hate us or supplant us. If we do it, we're either colonists or gentrifiers. If we go the other direction, we're white flight or colonizers in the other direction. If we complain about it, we're Islamophobic. If they complain about us, what are they, Joe? What's the word for it if you hate Christians? Yeah, it's another trick question. There's not one. Yeah, sorry to leave you hanging there, bud. All right. Isn't that curious? Oh, but there's supposed to be systemic racism on behalf of us, not against us. Yeah, right. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And not only is the fraud just running rampant with the daycares and the home health care and the hospice centers and the medical transportation and the H-1Bs, it's also in the student loan and financial aid sector. Find out this bad news next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. You know, we're dealing with this diversification, this multicultiness on a couple of fronts here. There was a big protest over the weekend in the UK, Restore UK. Tommy Robinson was the head of that. Here locally, we have a local activist who's dared to try and pass out Bibles at the same campus where they were handing out Qurans and hijabs. He's not allowed to hand out Bibles on the campus. He didn't get permission, didn't go through the proper channels, didn't fill out the paperwork, didn't do the background check. So he's just going to be on the sidewalk next to the campus, and if anybody would like a Bible, he'll be there from 8:15 to 9:15 tomorrow. And the ISD sent out a warning letter. Oh my God, look out for the Christians. Look out. So this whole diversity thing keeps popping its head up, whether you're going to a water park in Grand Prairie or the Costco in Frisco. You can't get away from this, can you? Jim and Brock, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James, when you were talking about, when they come into old neighborhoods, the gentrification or the white flight, but you said there's no word for when you come into Christian conservative neighborhoods, but you're saying it constantly. Diversification. They try to make a positive spin out of it that they're bringing forward. And that's what Islam is. It's a cancer.
I have a hard time saying Islam is a cancer. Casey Kasem was a Muslim. Was he a cancer on society, or did he add to our society? Was he a net positive? Dave Chappelle.
I think he was largely secular for the most part.
Okay, so now we need to make an edit, an addendum, maybe a corollary to your previous statement. So secular Muslims are not a cancer. How about Islamists?
The problem with Islam is it's not a religion; it is a political concept. We have freedom of religion in this country, so it's, hey, I don't want to do that; it's against my religion. But in Islam, you don't have that. It's, you will do this because it's the religion, or we'll cut your head off.
Okay, so Jim, I think the truer statement here is people who want to implement Sharia law are a cancer on society.
Absolutely.
Because secular Muslims, like you said, you admitted secular Muslims, not a problem. Because I used to work with Muslims, and they weren't very Muslim. They were very secular. They said bad words. They would eat a cold cut trio from Subway, which has pork in it. They would wear gold, which is haram. So I think of my friends. I think of Cleo. I don't want to kick him out. Him and his family own a chain of fine menswear stores, and they're pretty cool dudes. They don't make their wife and daughters wear the hijabs. So I can't do the blanket, all Muslims are bad. But if you're coming here and you're not assimilating, if you're coming here from the ideology of raping ain't so bad, those people, absolutely they're a cancer. And absolutely everywhere they've become a majority of the population, things have gone south as far as individual rights go in every country where it's been tried. So, I'm trying to do this delicate balance where I know it's not all Muslims are bad. That's too simple. But anywhere Muslims have become a majority of the population in a country, it's gone bad. And I can't argue against that.
Minority, any country they're the minority, they're focused on minority rights until they become the majority. Then there are no minority rights.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair criticism as well. All right. Great call, Jim. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks.
Round of applause. Yeah. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in. Let's go to RL in Fort Worth. Hey, RL.
Hey, buddy. Well, this is all good conjecture and rhetoric and all that stuff, but the fact of the matter is, if the American people want to know what Muslim is, they can get a Quran and they can see what Muhammad said. He would kill his own people for doing what they're doing in this country right now. They're not Muslims. They're not Islam. They are something that wants to make the claim. It's sort of like a Christian says they're a Christian, but still goes around and whores and drinks and does all that stuff. And somebody says, well, you're judging. That's not a judgment. That's a reality.
Wait. How'd you know about my whoring habit? I'm just kidding.
Well, because you talk about it all the time. That's why you got Mrs. Parker now. You don't have to do that no more.
Right. You're right. My previous whoring habit. Yeah.
No, and mine too, brother, but I've been married 40 years.
All right, you don't have to tattle on yourself, RL.
Well, hey, that's fine. I'm good with it. I'm good. I'm 67 years old, but I guarantee you that these people that live in this country that are hiding under the cloak of being Muslim, they are not following Muhammad at all. They're not following the tenets of Muhammad at all.
You
They
mean
would all be
which
dead.
one? The Islamists or the ones that are more friendly? Because
The ones that are more friendly,
okay,
even the ones that are talking about Sharia law, it's going to be what I equivocate it to is a super conservative like me and a socialist Democrat.
Yeah,
That's how I equivocate it.
well, even if you look at like economically, it runs afoul of free market capitalism for sure. And even if the most secular of libertarians out there oppose Islam taking over, especially in a government sense, just for that. Let me squeeze in one more call here. Jeff and Garland, you're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, just wanted to say real quick, we always say we have good Muslims, we have bad Muslims. The good Muslims turn in the bad Muslims, but that never happens. Have any of your friends with the clothing store that you were talking about, did they turn in any of the bad Muslims, or are they just condoning the bad behavior from the bad Muslims?
Well, see, that's weird because I actually would hang out with them and some of their friends. And if you're from the Middle East, you just hang out with a bunch of Middle Easterns, I learned. And there was a place on Greenville. Did you ever know of Alamir? It's been closed for like 10 years or so. But we used to hang out there a lot. And so I got to meet these guys from other countries that were also Muslims. And they actually would talk bad about, well, it was Jamal from Saudi Arabia they were suspicious of. And they also made fun of him because they claimed the Saudis liked goats, kind of like that. And so they do have some sort of internecine squabbles about it. But just like I don't go rat on, my friend of a friend who's in the Banditos, I don't see them. They don't have inside info on terror attacks that are about to happen and they withhold it, in my experience. And they wouldn't because they're running around in a convertible just being more American than Muslim.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're not making a good point. Someone's not turning in the bad guys, but there are good guys who you can't fault them for not turning them in. They don't know about that. Look, if they're wearing a gold chain, the real Islamists aren't going to tell them about the next bombing plot. Because they know that they can't be trusted. They're openly living in sin. They're haram. They're living outside the law. All right. Thank you very much, Jeff and Garland. I don't feel like I gave him a good answer because he was making a good point. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, more on the situation with the Muslims versus Christians. And can you not hand out a Bible these days, even for free, even next to a school without parents being warned? That's a little silly. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, it's the battle of the religions on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. You know, in the wake of the Islamic shooting right here, it's starting to look like this was not aimed at the mosque itself, which I was expressing skepticism in the first hour of the show that this would be an anti-Islamic hate attack. Just not the fact that it's never happened, but it's not the normal scenario. It's not what you see. After 9/11, there wasn't a rash of mosques being attacked in the United States. After October 7th, there wasn't angry Jewish people attacking mosques. No, that if you're associated with Team Red, you just don't do that. There's been plenty of attacks on churches and Christian schools in Nashville and Minneapolis, and Joel Osteen's church got shot up. But it doesn't really go the other way, does it? So with the new details, we have 3 dead, piecing together from a couple sources, 2 of which sound like they're shooters. But that can't be it, because there was a security guard that died. And it sounded like there was a woman in a car 10 miles away that might have passed away too. So we paused it at the beginning of the press conference that the authorities are having, the San Diego Police Department was having, just live on the break here. We'll pick it up right there. All right, go ahead and stop it right there. All right, that should kind of tick you off. Just because it's an Islamic center, the setting of one of the shootings that happened in that spree. We're just going to assume it's a hate crime until we find evidence it's not, because that's not how it works the other way around. When there was a shooting at the Dallas ICE facility about 3 exits up from where I'm sitting now, when there was a shooting at the BLM riot downtown in Dallas about a decade ago, when there was a shooting at the Alvarado office, when all these other attacks, when there was a shooting at Joel Osteen's church, did they assume it was a hate crime until proven otherwise? Well, I'm tired of this double standard. 800-288-9227. Let's go back to the phones here. Dina in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hi, it's Gina. But I just wanted to say I agree with you in relation to the Quran and the Bible situation. That's ridiculous that a school doesn't won't allow a Bible in their library or someone to distribute them on their campus. But I had a couple of other points. The situation with Islam is people are free to practice whatever religion they want, but it's when they start trying to cram it down our throats, that's where I take issue. And I am a Christian. I wouldn't call myself purely conservative, but I'm probably more middle of the road. But it's ridiculous that we can't expect people to just leave us alone to practice our religion. The other thing I wanted to say, you've got to be a little more careful with your generalizations. Gentrification is economic. Yes, it may have started out to be, about a racial situation, but it's economic. It's, you can have middle-class blacks or higher echelon earning blacks moving into the old neighborhood and renovating properties, and that's still gentrification.
I'm not saying you're wrong, Gina. I've never heard it used like that. I mean, you might be right. I've never heard it used like that. They've always used it as an avatar for anti-white.
Well, you should check into things that have gone on in Harlem, where you've had a lot of higher earning, blacks moving back in and renovating properties. And the other generalization that you're making is about the country. Now, I was calling from Dallas, but I live in the country, and I feel perfectly safe in what you might consider. I mean, you didn't use the term redneck, but that's basically what you were trying to say. And it's not necessarily like that everywhere. In fact, I went to the country for peace and quiet, and I got that. And I'm very happy. And my little town is, it's not necessarily bug tussle, but it's a very safe little town. And I don't see any. I mean, there may be people who are full of hatred, but they're not displaying it.
There is almost no hatred in rural America. This idea that there's a bunch of bloodthirsty white people that are looking to oppress minorities. There's a sundown town. They're flying Confederate flags and practicing their nooses. It's the safest place in the world. And Gina, I've made the point over and over, especially to my black friends, that you're safer out there than you are in any urban black neighborhood for the most part. The real sundown town around here is Oak Cliff. It's not bug tussle. But I'll take your other points under advisement, Gina. I will watch my generalizations. Thank you very much, and I'll be a little more judicious about my use of gentrification as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Gina. All right. More callers coming up, but also a couple more updates on the Islamic Center. Oh, the crowd likes Gina. Now we have 3 dead, but there's 2 more suspects at a different location that might be dead as well. So this might be a 5-person body count. Hopefully I'll have an answer for you in 4 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, if you're in pain right now, that might be an optional situation. Look, James Parker here for QC Kinetics. So many things that we used to just take for granted can be fixed now. Have you seen pictures of like Elon Musk or Joe Biden in the 90s? They were golden bald. Are they bald now? No. Why? Because you don't have to be bald. It's a choice. We have the technology to fix it. Same thing with your joint pain. You might just be living in pain by choice. Go to QC Kinetics. It doesn't cost you anything to give them a call. Go get the free evaluation. And look, if it doesn't work for you, they'll run a couple tests. They'll tell you, nah, you don't have the type of injury that our technology can fix. But the good news is, if it can work for you, they'll work on you to make sure that you can pay for it, get it all set up there. And then you have all of the positives that you hear about on all my spots. There's no downtime. There's no surgery. There's no anesthetic. You're not getting cut open. There's no stitches. They don't hit you with a bunch of antibiotics before and after. The best part is, though, you don't miss work. No downtime. You go in, you go out, takes maybe 30 minutes tops, and you just continue your life the same as before you went in there. But it all starts with you giving them a call. 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. Okay, we have a whole slew of updates here on the San Diego mosque shooting. Police are trying to clear up that they now think the two shootings from the two different locations are not necessarily related. And if you add it all up, the body count just went up, but it's not all about the Moss thing anymore. So they're saying a couple security guards dead there. There were two suspects, teenagers, in a car that were found dead. Then there's another shooting 10 miles away that they thought for a while might have been part of a shooting spree. Like, did they shoot these people over here and then come down and shoot at the mosque? Or now they've sort of severed that connection. And if you add up all the casualties here, we may have 8 dead total. But at the Islamic Center, 2 staffers and security guard were dead at the Islamic Center shooting. So if you take those, plus the 2 suspects, plus the people at the other shooting, there's a lot going on in San Diego today. None of it sounds very good. All right, we've been talking a lot about this issue, not necessarily with the shooting itself, but it kind of dovetails into what the last couple hours have been. We're talking about the big protests against the Islamic immigration in UK, and not just the Islamic immigration, but the covering up of grooming gangs and the preferential treatment and the squashing of the freedom of speech and criticism of these. And then here locally, we're dealing with a smaller issue on that looks like it's headed in that direction. Is this what we're going to be doing in Frisco in 10 years? On top of that, you have a local public school district that was handing out Qurans at the beginning of February, now sending warning letters to parents because someone might hand out a Bible there. We've got some real problems, don't we? Vicky in Denton, you're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And listening to some of the comments and everything, I think there was a lot of cloudiness. I guess, we need to clearly define the terminology between Muslim and Islam. All Islamics are Muslims, but not all Muslims are Islamic. And like
Islamists. So if you just happenstance happen to be a Muslim, but you do not want to arrange your government in Sharia law, then you're a secular Muslim. The Islamist, you add the IST, that means you want to use Islam as your basis for governance. And I think we all agree that that's where the problem is.
Yeah, so it's not against all Muslims at all. And some of it, they don't even practice. And I don't know, the word secularism, it's kind of... it doesn't sit easy with me either. I've had a lot of friends that are Muslim. They're just people like we are. They're very kind, and over there they have in Egypt and everywhere Muslims and Christians interchangeably, and nobody bothers anybody. It's when they become.
Wait. Where's this magic place where Muslims interact well with other religious minorities with no problems?
Well, I had some friends from Egypt. I had some friends from Jordan.
Right. Well, that's a terrible example. Egypt, they oppress the Coptic Christians constantly. In fact, Coptic Christians used to be a majority in that country, and they've slowly been genocided down to less than 10% of the population.
I don't know. That's not what I heard, but I've never been there. So
you don't have to go there.
That's what I was told by them. And, this fellow was a student here. And I kind of took him under my wing and, was kind of like his, adopted mother here, in America versus, in Egypt. And, he's very kind and, not prejudiced against Christians or have anything at all. And they're very accepting. And at the college where they taught the ESL students, they were all, the Muslims were very kind. Now, there were some that when they practiced Islam, then they weren't. They were like, we're infidels, and they're not here to gain peace. They're not here to blend in, and they're not a peaceful people. Or
right, but see, Vicky, as long as a significant portion of them are Islamists, then you also have to recognize that they will lie to get in here, and without a good way to weed them out,
definitely.
I don't think you can let any more in. Period, because of the risk that they might be Islamists.
Absolutely. I totally agree there. And just like the Iranians, people are against the Jews and what's happening to the Iranians, we're cutting them off and bombing over there. The Iranians are happy. They're dancing. Because they're being oppressed by the Islamic ones and they're not like that.
Yeah, some of them aren't. Some of them. Well, I've talked to Muslims from Iran on this show that want to set up a different Islamic state. They just don't want it to be run by the Ayatollahs. So it's a big smattering of both. And I love having the discussion. Thank you very much. That's Vicky in Denton with a great call. Coming up next, we're going to play Dead or Alive. Today's category is Michael. It's going to be famous people named Michael. So if you feel confident in your knowledge of Michaels and you would like to win 2 tickets to see the Black Crowes at Dos Equis Pavilion on August 9th, go ahead and call in right now. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Dead or Alive next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, homeowners. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. We've been going through a whole lot of storms. We are not out of the clear yet. We're going to have a chance of rain almost every day this week. You might have some problems for your roof. And let me tell you something. If you see one shingle missing from your roof, or if you see one shingle missing from any roof in your neighborhood, that means the wind, the rain, the hail, the storm was bad enough to start lifting those shingles. And that's where the problems start. So if you see any signs that you have problems, doesn't cost you anything to have Blue Ribbon come out and look at it. If it's just a small little fix, they we'll just put a little caulking here, fix the leak or whatever they got to do. They'll show you what the problem is. We'll talk about solutions. And if your roof is old and you want to go ahead and just scrap the whole thing, get a new roof, they'll help you with the biggest pain in the butt part of it, the insurance company. Don't just believe me. Go to blueribbondfw.com, read some of the 5-star Google reviews right now, and then give them a call, have them come out, get your free roof inspection just to make sure your house is okay. Your most valuable asset is okay after the storms. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey, you're just in time for Dead or Alive on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. All right, so Dead or Alive is the game show where I'm going to give you a list of 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. It really is that simple. And at stake today is 2 tickets to see the Black Crows. Don't bother calling in. The phone lines are already full with that, Mr. Jovi. Thank you, Mr. Jovi, and thank you for hanging out with us on today's edition of Dead or Alive. Today's category is Michael. Famous people named Michael. Today's prize, 2 tickets to the Black Crows. They will be at Dos Equis Pavilion on August 9th. The rest of us, Ticketmaster.com. Someone's going to win something right now, though. We shall start with Misty. Misty in Royce City, you're going to be first up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
Yes, sir.
How confident are you in your knowledge of Michaels?
I'm okay. Not really. I'm not going to lie. I'm not good.
Not good with your mind? Well, I appreciate the honesty there. All right. I think you're going to do better than you think, because when I was typing this out, this sounded like it was going to be a hard category. And then after I typed it out, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't such a hard category. So we'll start with something that's, kind of easy. Michael J. Fox. Misty, Michael J. Fox, dead or alive?
Alive. Live.
Oh, look how confident you are now. You said that in 1 second. So, yeah. Now, was that so hard?
No, sir.
Okay. Next one in the Michael list. Michael Caine. Do you recognize the name Michael Caine?
Alive.
Michael Caine is alive. That's a good one because he's 93 years old. All right. Well done. Misty, off to a good start. Michael Moore, dead or alive. Famous sort of documentarian, more of a propagandist. Michael Moore, dead or alive.
Alive.
Michael Moore is alive, 72 years old. He is a miracle of cardiovascular health. Michael Douglas. You might know him as Kirk Douglas's son. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
Michael Douglas is alive, and he's 81 years old. What were you worried about? Mike Myers.
Mike Myers?
Yeah, he was on Saturday Night Live. He was Austin Power. He was Wayne's World, and you already think he's alive? Well, you're correct. He is alive.
Yes.
Michael Bolton, dead or alive?
Live.
Michael Vick, dead or alive? Ask your husband. He knows.
I couldn't even hear you. I'm sorry.
Michael Vick.
Babe. No, I'm just kidding. Michael Vick is still alive.
Yeah, I heard your husband back there. He's helping you out. All right, Michael Clark Duncan. He was in the Green Mile, and he said, "I'm tired, boss." Is he dead or alive?
Dead. He's dead.
He is dead. The author of Jurassic Park, his name is Michael Crichton. Dead or alive?
Alive.
No, I'm sorry. Michael Crichton is dead.
Dead.
Yeah. You got all but one of them. You're going to kill yourself when you find out what the last one is. Sorry, Misty in Royce City. You did all the hard work. You're just going to hand off the tickets to someone else, though. Thank you for playing Dead or Alive. We go to Tyler in Burleson. Or is it Burleson and Tyler? You're next up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
I'm ready.
You got it so made here. Michael Jackson, dead or alive?
He is supposedly dead.
That's all it takes. That was the last one. That was number 10. Are you a Black Crows fan?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, then you're going to be very happy with this. I'm put you on hold. You just won 2 tickets to see the Black Crows at Dos Equis Pavilion on August 9th. For the rest of us, you can get your tickets online or you can keep listening. Maybe I'll give away some more tickets before the week's over. This has been Dead or Alive. All right, Tyler and Burleson, don't hang up. Stay on hold. As soon as we go to the commercial break, Good Garrett will pick up the phone, get your information, email you the tickets. For the rest of you, don't go anywhere. We are going to expose you to student loan fraud next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How many programs are stealing your money right now? It's pretty much all of them. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You may have noticed that there's a whole bunch of fraud that was discovered during Doge that was just flushing your money down the toilet. And they still gripe about it. They're like, there are children on the other side of the planet who are starving because of the Doge cuts. Why is that your responsibility? Why is it that someone has a baby in any country on the planet? You're responsible to feed it. Makes no sense, right? So there was the overt just waste of your taxpayer dollars where it would have benefited you the exact same amount if they had taken all that piles of money that they were spending on Doge and just set fire to it and thrown the ashes into Blake Ray Hubbard or whatever. The other form of fraud that you've seen is for these otherwise well-intended programs that had just minimal, if any, safeguards on them be exploited. Now, a lot of this is exploited by an immigrant community or two here and there, but there's plenty of it that's done by natives, whether it's the Paycheck Protection Program or the Leering Center, daycare, home hospice. Just make the assumption it's everywhere. Everywhere there's a government program, they don't have the built-in profit incentive to stop fraud. In fact, their incentives are the opposite. You ever hear people brag about spending your money? Yes, this was a successful program. We successfully fed 14 million children this year. What, is that a good thing? Sounds like you're doing a terrible job alleviating poverty if 14 million kids needed your help. But no, they measure it. All the incentives are backwards. So it should surprise you. About 0% was the level of my surprise. I would accept maybe a 1 or 2% surprise on this one. But Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, was telling Fox News about the student loan fraud. And it's to the tune of billions.
As like many things in the government, we found that there was a lot of fraud going on, that there were bots that were applying for these loans. There were ghost students. There were dead people who were getting these loans, et cetera. And so we really did enforce and tweak this entire system so that we have this real-time fraud identity now. And it's as simple as showing an ID, online to show who you are when you're applying for these loans. And last year, we kept $1 billion of fraud money from going out. And just in the first, 2 weeks of revamping this program this year, we've saved, about $60 million. So it's very effective. And I'm very pleased that we are going to be able to save taxpayers, billions of dollars with this identity program.
These programs, these social programs, is more than 70% of the federal budget. You put that in with the defense budget, which is huge, but I bet you it's full of waste, fraud, and abuse. I would submit to you that we could cut 90% of the federal government, the budget, the offices, the programs, all of it, and you wouldn't even notice. In fact, your life would be better. You would be more prosperous. You wouldn't get a pay cut every year. Like right now, inflation's running at 3.8%. And that's better than it was doing under the worst times under Biden. But you can't live like this. You can't get ahead like this. You can't take a 4% pay cut every year and still maintain your standard of living. Something's got to give. And the Republicans can't throw your money away fast enough. The Democrats can't throw it away fast enough. The Republicans have no damn intention of stopping them. They just talk about it. Did you know that all the Doge cuts have been reversed? Rand Paul said this on the campaign trail this weekend where he's campaigning for Thomas Massey.
The Doge. They found so many great things. I met some of the young computer geniuses that came in. They found all this waste. And you know how much of it became law? Zero. Because big government, frankly, all the Democrats, and big government Republicans joined together on the spending committees, and they simply just spent it again. So he found it, I found it, Thomas found it, we've all found the waste and pointed it out, and they put it right back in. So this problem is not over.
Yeah, it's not over. It was all for show. And all the Republicans, except for Rand Paul and Tom Massey and Mike Lee and about 6 others, they're all in on it. I don't know what you should do about that. I mean, I don't have any answers. Stop voting for Democrats and Republicans. Start voting third party. Find a constitutional party or a libertarian or anything. Sharon in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hello. I was a professor at a college in the Dallas area, and one form of student loan fraud that I saw that I think is quite terrible. Students would come to our school, take out student loans, which paid for their full tuition, books and supplies, plus a little bit more to live off of. They would get that student loan and then make D's and F's the first term. The second term, they would do the same thing. And once the student had 2 terms of D's and F's, they would be no longer eligible to stay in our college.
Right.
But with D's and F's, the federal government says that the school did not teach them well enough. Now, these were students who didn't attend class regularly, wouldn't take the exams, or wouldn't in the projects. So how did that make the school responsible for their negative grade? So they would stiff the school would be left holding the bag for the loan, the student would go on to a different school and not tell the new school about the schools they had stiffed before. Because if they just didn't say, well, I went to that college and have all these D's and F's, there's no way for the college to know what other schools the person has been to. It's not like when you apply for a credit card, the credit system can know all of the other cards you've had. So I see that schools are getting stiffed in this way.
What is this program called where you get your I'm sorry.
Classrooms and professors.
What is this program called?
A number of students
Sharon.
who don't perform.
Sharon, can you hear me? What's the program called that forgives your student loan if you have terrible grades?
Well, if you have terrible grades, it's not a program. It's just that the federal government automatically says that the school did not teach the student well enough. Therefore, federal government will not hold that loan in their as owed to the government. They will say it's owed to the school. It's the school's fault for not teaching them.
This is one of I'm hearing this for the first time, Sharon. And I'm surprised. I mean, it sounds so dumb, but I'm not shocked if that's true. So thank you. That's new information for me, and it's terrible. Great. Well, that's going to about do it for the James Show today. I really appreciate you hanging out. If you're a Dan and Shay fan, their tour is coming to Dos Equis Pavilion on October 22nd. Special guests Josh Ross and Tyler Hubbard. Get tickets and information at livenation.com, or if you want to try and win a pair of tickets from us, you can text the word YOUNG, because it's Dan and Shay, the Young Tour. Text YOUNG to 800-288-9227. You can win a chance to win a pair of tickets from us to see Dan and Shay October 22nd. Text YOUNG to 800-288-9227. All right, stay put. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.